Hey, welcome to the channel. As promised, we're going to be making base plates today for the KPCB portable sewing machine. What we're going to do is go into Inkscape and actually come up with some different designs and also print them in different colors. If you haven't seen the first video, we did an overview in this link right here, so definitely check it out. So what we're going to do is go into Inkscape and actually design these custom base plates. Now, in order to do this, we're going to have to take some measurements. We're going to have to go into Inkscape and design our vector shapes. And then we're going to have to take it over to the laser to be etched out. Three key terms we're going to go over in this episode are fitment, flush, and also variation. And I'm going to explain this more in detail as we are building our base plates. These are designed to go ahead and slide right off, and then you can slide them right back in just like so. And it will allow you, when you're sewing your clothes, to put the garment on there and it's nice and smooth. So all right, let's go ahead and get to the measurement part first, and then we're going to hop on over to the computer. Okay, you might hear the laser going off in the background, but I want to take a minute to talk about how I actually get the measurements for the parts I'm trying to make. So what I like to do is simplify the actual part that I'm trying to make. These steps to make it easier for you to get your measurements for your parts. Let me show you over here. So in this part, the main focus is the base plate. So we need to recreate this part. I made this custom part. It didn't come with the base plate, and let me show you how I got to making this part. Okay, so the first measurement we need is the distance between left and right. This is your width. There's an inner groove here where I'm going to take my calipers and measure that inner groove, and then I'll show you the number. Okay, as you can see, first measurement, 42 millimeters. Okay, the next thing we want to focus on is the height, but without the curvature. Just don't make it complex. Focus on the square here. Okay, so we've got the width, which is 42 millimeters. Now let's go ahead and get the height just shy of this top curve and just shy of this bottom curve. All right, and I got 33 millimeters. Okay, I wanted to zoom in to focus on this curve right here. So imagine you just chopped it off, and this is the only part you're focused on, the distance between the base and the top of the curve. Let's say 6.5. okay, 6.5. We're gonna rock with that for the bottom curve, and the top curve we're gonna say 3.8. Okay, so I've basically written down my measurements here. And what you want to do is basically, to figure out the top and bottom curve, you're actually going to subtract what you need from the main width and height, and that'll give you your measurements for top and bottom. So this is what you want to focus on. Let's get it all into the computer. We're going to etch out a couple more, and then we're going to have a discussion right at the end of the video. Okay, so this is my file set up here, and I just want to go over a couple of my iterations, and I'll zoom out so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. So this is what I mean by variation iteration. As you can see, I have several different copies. Some are still alive, meaning I can make adjustments. Some are already merged down. But I'm going to go over a couple of steps here just so you can see the kind of the workflow of how it works. So if you wanted to join a couple of shapes together, and for example, if you see here, I've got this red rectangle and I got this black one. So what you want to do, especially when you're making a plate such as this or this one, you want to make sure that you're recreating the shape that will fit in the sewing machine, that will make that base plate nice and neat. So when you're merging these two, you basically want to just highlight both by holding shift and clicking on both. Then you come up here to path and union. Now the cool thing about Inkscape, it's a free software. Works very similar to what you would say Affinity Designer or Illustrator on Adobe. So one other thing I want to illustrate is once you've merged these shapes down, you can actually grab any of the sides and curve them like you want, just like this. So if I click here and just drag up, as you can see, I've just created a curve here. So let me zoom in on the bottom so you can see how that works again. And I've got my snaps on the upper right screen. over here. You can turn snaps on and off if you don't want it to snap. I like snaps, but sometimes you got to turn it off to make adjustments. All right, now let me show you the other file and how I made some changes. Okay, so this is my adjusted plate, and what I basically did was in the laser, black etches and red cuts out. So let's zoom out real quick and you can see the red line here. And I'll delete one of these rectangles so you can see that it's going to cut out the shape of the plate. Now, just to give you a visual on this red one, you can see that if you compare it to the one on the screen over here or over there, wherever it's black is where it's etched out. Now this is a triangle, but this is the plate that you're seeing right here. But if you wanted to adjust it, let's say you didn't want 3 finger grooves, you can just delete one and have 3 or 2. You can delete another, and basically you have your adjustments. So now what I want to illustrate and promote is if you ever wanted to learn how to use Photoshop, Illustrator, Inkscape, any digital design software, Adobe Premiere, or even DaVinci Resolve, I have promo links down here in the description below, and you can hit me up in the comment section if you're interested in learning how to design. Now, if you have a business, you can also promote your slides on the screen here. Let's go over and switch over to the laser part. Okay, this is the top plate with the adjusted curvature at the top. I'm curious to know how this one will fit better, and I've got it set to engrave a certain way, and I'll explain that as it starts on the machine. Let's go ahead and get that one started, and then we'll watch it etch a little bit. Okay, I got the laser powered on and ready to go. Water pump all ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the power on, show you something here. I right now have it set on 8, and this is just some scrap material I was using. Show you one new addition real quick. I added this exhaust hose all the way out here, and so that way none of the fumes are in my garage. So that's a good way to exhaust the fumes out, and I like that little new addition. Some scrap material from another job I had, and one thing I want to mention is always save your scraps, never throw those away. Okay, like I said, there's a certain thickness in the material that I'm etching it down so it slides nicely in the machine. So I'm gonna come over here real quick so you can actually see. So I've got 2 pieces of material. This is the same thickness as the black that's inside. This is thicker, so I have to etch this down more. I might even file the edges down. But this is a frosted material I made. I want to see how that plate looks on there. And over on the machine, let me get in here closer so you can actually see the gap that I'm talking about that we had to fix. So here you can see it slide, but as you close it, there's a slight gap here, and that's what we're etching to find out. So once we get that done, I'm gonna put the new plate on and see if it fits better. Because I can't push it all the way through, there's a slight overhang right here. I don't know if you could see it. There's the curve and slight overhang. So let's go ahead and do that and see where we're at. Okay, there's a couple of terms I want to talk about in engineering, and I'll leave the definitions right in the screen below. The first one is fitment. Basically, when you're designing stuff, your first version usually doesn't fit perfectly, or there's adjustments you can make to make sure that everything fits smoothly, everything feels nicely. So fitment is very important as you adjust your parts. Sometimes you can get really good at it and your first try is perfect, but it rarely happens. The second step I would like to say is making things flush. If you have a straight edge or something that has to fit inside of a slide or a groove, you want to make sure that your part is actually flush with that groove. And I'll slide this in here. So flush meaning that everything's aligned in a certain way to where the fitment is just right. So having things flush is sometimes very important when you're making sliding parts or things that have to fit along the side of an edge. Okay, the third term I want to talk about is variation. Now in engineering, we're talking about different iterations and varieties of your same design, because you might want to change some of the functionality of the design, maybe even the fitment, the thickness, the color, and also overall how the part functions. So sometimes you have to try out different things to see how they work, such as here we're making the rectangular grooves for a thumb pull, but then over in the laser we've got one etching that's triangular. So all this is very important to have different iterations and variations of your design. Okay, right now it's running a vector cut. So what we're gonna do is see if this fitment is better, and if it is, this is the permanent one we're gonna roll with. It looks like we're done. Let's check it. We're done. Let's check it out. So one thing I want to mention here is that you're gonna have residue to clean off once your parts are lasered, but that's no problem. I'm gonna clean it up first. We're gonna do a test fit, and if everything works, this is our piece. Okay, I just want to bring you in. This is the new piece, and guys, check this out. It pretty much is a perfect fit up here. No gaps. Looks really sharp. So this is the size we're gonna go with. All right, we got the triangular design up. Let's run this one. Now, believe it or not, I was able to get this sewing machine for 50 cents. It was just laying in a bin, and basically I didn't want to let this little guy go to waste. So hopefully once this machine is fully replaced, I got a battery hatch to make for it. Also that bobbin pin here, and I got to make a finger guard and also possibly a table for this. But once all that's done, I'm going to send it to a real sewer, which is over at thimblebook.com. And if you haven't checked out that channel, there's a lot of great sewing stuff on there. Click on this link above. It'll send you straight to the channel. Hopefully you enjoyed my video. Once I have memberships up, you'll be able to go in deep detail on how I do every aspect of each build that I make. If you'd like to support the channel, links are on the screen and in the description below. Also, next week is part 3, where we're going to actually go on this side of the sewing machine and create the bobbin pin that goes in here with the spring. So we're going to be making springs from scratch and making new parts.